Welcome to the Spotlight series. Don't just survive, thrive. Most of us have experienced challenging times, now more than ever. The key is how we choose to respond, whether we merely survive or thrive. My name is Nicola Steele, founder of JJP Talent Solutions, an Australian IT recruitment company. With over 20 years' expertise, I provide insights on how you can transform your career to the next level. However, we are not just our careers. We are spouses, partners, parents, friends, etc., with a variety of needs and wants. In this podcast, I talk to a diverse range of experts from different professions, such as finance, law, psychology, and health, to provide insights on how you can survive and thrive. I don't have all the answers. However, collectively, we can instill hope, clarity, and inspiration. I hope you enjoy listening. I'm delighted to introduce Sue Lester, an executive coach, mindset trainer, author, and keynote speaker. Her business, Growing Content, earned Sue the SIMNI 2017 International Small Businesswoman of the Year Award. Sue, thank you for joining me on episode 3 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive.
Thanks, Nicola. I'm delighted to be here.
Sue, please tell me about yourself and what you do, starting, of course, with your International Small Businesswoman of the Year Award, which is an absolutely incredible accolade.
It was just amazing. When I was told that I'd won it, I was like, what? Me? Really? And the response was, that's exactly why you got it. So it's from Seroptimus International, which is a global volunteer movement that's in 121 countries, 70-something thousand members. And this is from the Brisbane, or one of the Brisbane branches. So it's all about advocating for human rights and gender equality, giving women and children a voice. So I was awarded it for my work because I work with women across the world in my mindset coaching business. And of course, you know, it's the clearing of head trash, helping them step into their personal power, find their voice, find their identity. And my work is my legacy. So it's that positive ripple on effect. So I know that when I work with you, I'm not just working with you, I'm working with, you know, your spouse, your children, your team, your neighbour. And it's that positive ripple on effect across and down generations. As well as that, I also do voluntary work for Gabrielle's School and Orphanage in Nakuru in Kenya. So that's in slums there, and you know, there's other voluntary work I've done around the world. So it was a combination of things.
Wow. Well, a very, very well-deserved award there. Tell me a bit more about your company and your background and everything.
My background, goodness, that's been a journey and a half, reinventing myself along the way. A background in education, social enterprise, and adventure travel. So they all come together beautifully in what I do now, which is the mindset coaching, speaking, writing. It's all about change, helping people create the change they want in themselves and therefore in their world.
Very much got that time at the moment to make that change for the positive.
Well, exactly. Things are changing whether we want to or not.
Yes.
And we've got a choice of whether we change with it or whether we just, you know, and I think of it like the chrysalis metaphor. You know, there's still some grubs crawling around, but most of us have gone into a chrysalis. And what we do while we're in the chrysalis time, you know, whether we do the inner work on ourselves determines whether we emerge as butterflies or whether we just stay a mess inside.
Do you know, that's really interesting. I have been using the same metaphor, but going to either a butterfly or a moth.
That's so unfair for the poor moths.
Well, some moths are attractive, but you know what I mean. But yes, they're very similar. It's an opportunity. We're in the really gooey stage at the moment that will blossom either side.
And I use that because I've been watching caterpillars devour my figs out in the porch and going to these beautiful chrysalises. And some have emerged with damaged wings, some have just emerged and flown, and others, there's one sitting there, one sad little chrysalis that hasn't, and I don't think it will ever. morph into a butterfly. Something went wrong inside the chrysalis and it's just a gooey mess, which is really sad. But it's my intention with my work is that everyone emerges beautifully
Yes.
at the end of this or during this. You don't have to wait till the end. You can emerge as a butterfly during as well.
And I guess we're in that process at the moment, which brings me quite neatly on to the next question I was going to ask you about that head trash clearing. You're a head trash clearing specialist and also author of The Face Within, How to Change Your Unconscious Blueprint. So tell me a bit more about those concepts and how people can use them to improve their lives.
You know how you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the should haves, the if, and it's not just me, is it? No. The should have, the if onlys, the what ifs, the, all those fears, those self-doubts, you've got the negative self-talk happening, you say, no and yes in all the wrong places. That's what I call head trash. And I was given that term by a client who was a business coach, very successful business coach in his own right. And he invited me to a workshop he was doing for 40 of his clients. And he pulled me up on stage and said, "Meet Sue. She clears my head trash." I thought, oh, great. I'll have that. Thank you.
That's fantastic.
It just sums it up beautifully, doesn't it? It's just all that nonsense that's happening in our head. I shouldn't say nonsense, but it's all that turmoil, that white noise, the things that hold us back. And you need to be cleared out of the way because it's blocking your path.
Yeah.
By clearing your head trash, have a smoother, faster path forward. And whether that's towards a better career, better business, relationships, health, wealth, just a sense of who you are in the world. Because a lot of women I work with have given so much to so many roles they have in their lives that they've lost connection with who they are inside.
So in terms of clearing that head trash, do you have any kind of methods or how do you go about doing that?
I've been playing with this for 12 years, so and I'm someone who just loves learning new techniques and new modalities. So I've got the whole big toolkit plus a garden shed full of tools and techniques that I can use. One of them I've developed one of the ones I've developed myself is the unconscious blueprint work, which is what I wrote my book, The Face Within. So your unconscious blueprint is your internal image or images of yourself. And we also have them of other people. So those images can be empowering, they can be disempowering, they can be same as your chronological age or much, much younger. So if you think of it, you might be aware we've got a conscious and an unconscious mind. So if you think of your conscious mind as the captain on board your ship of life, below deck is your crew, your unconscious mind. Now, if your captain and your crew, your conscious and your unconscious mind aren't communicating effectively, your ship of life won't sail smoothly. It'll zigzag, it'll stall, it'll turn around and go backwards. Okay. Your unconscious blueprint is like the specifications manual and map that your crew are using to navigate. So if they're using an out-of-date version, say version 14 instead of version 45 or whatever your chronological age is, they're going to make very different decisions about maintenance, but also about, directions on how to act. And so, if you've ever had that feeling that, oh, I wish I was more grown up, I expected to be more grown up, more confident by now. Mum said I would be, it could be because you've got a disempowering unconscious blueprint.
Wow. I've never thought of it like that before.
It shows up in all sorts of ways in terms of our, how we show up in business, work, in relationships, whether we can keep our bodies healthy or whether we tell ourselves that we can't say no to, chocolate biscuits or that third or fourth glass of wine or whatever it is for people. So enormous impacts. And in the workplace dynamics too, because we have unconscious blueprints of other people. So if you just think of someone that you're intimidated by or you really admire, you put them on a pedestal, by doing that, you've actually disempowered yourself. And maybe, which means then you can't relate to that person on an equal level. So you won't be asking for that raise. You won't be connecting with them on a human to human level. It will be, I'm not worthy to God, which is a very different relationship dynamics. Okay, or else you're intimidated and allow them to get away with their poor behaviour if they're the bully or the intimidating type. But we can also have people that, when you think about in your life, is there someone that you're a bit dismissive of, don't respect? Well, that's disempowering them. And that doesn't serve you either because it means you're not allowing them to show their true talents, or they are showing, but you're not seeing their real value, their real worth. And so then you lose, you miss out. on tapping into their secret powers and ways that they can help you.
Yes, because I was going to say there's two sides to the story there about putting people on a pedestal, but also, treating the CEO and the janitor with the same respect, because their jobs are different, but they still serve very much a purpose.
Well, to my mind, we've got the same intrinsic worth. Yes, someone might be, I don't know, more powerful, smarter, more beautiful, sexier, wealthier, whatever than you, but, at their deepest level, same intrinsic worth. It doesn't matter what job they do in their life, because jobs come and go. It's the value of the person inside that counts,
Completely.
to my mind.
Fantastic. I must read your book. I haven't read it yet, I'm afraid. But,
tisk.
But I will include it in the show notes so other people can have the opportunity to read that.
I did write it with the stressed, stretched person in mind. So it's easy to read. There's case studies, there's exercises, there's inspiring quotes, there's, all sorts of things. And you can read it from cover to cover and send me feedback, and I'll send you more resources, or you can just pick it up and choose a page and get what you need for the day.
Fantastic. So the situation we're in now, everybody, I don't want to use that we're all in the same boat analogy, because it's different for different people, but this is going to be the new normal for the next few months.
At least.
So I try and be an optimist.
No. Can I interrupt there and say
yes,
don't
be an optimist.
Well, don't be a pessimist, but be a realist, because when you look at what's happening around the world, in Australia, we're so blessed. We really are.
Absolutely.
But when you look at what's happening elsewhere, there's no way this is going to be sorted in a couple of months. It's just not possible. And even when the pandemic restrictions are lifted, it's like the end of the war. When World War II ended, it wasn't like instantly the shops were full of food and everyone had jobs and the houses were suddenly, all rebuilt, and there's a transition, there's a healing and an adjustment period after. And the danger I see, and I'm seeing it a lot, is that people put a peg in the sand. Like Trump, for goodness sake, told people they'd be back in their churches by Easter. How irresponsible. And the danger of saying it's going to be a couple of months is that you then start counting down, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. You start, I just have to hang in, you're counting down the weeks, and you get to a couple of months' time and things haven't changed, or haven't changed as much as you wanted. And then your resilience is gone. In my head, I've said Christmas. And so that will keep me going. If things happen and get back to relatively normal before that, that's fabulous. But I want my resilience, I want myself to last the distance into the future. So you want to avoid that countdown. This is life. Don't put your life on hold waiting for 2 months' time, or waiting for 2 weeks, or whatever. Live your life now. Make the changes you need now so you can live your life now, rather than putting everything on hold and, fighting against what is. Suck it up. This is our new normal. We have to make adjustments and live our life now, and getting as much happiness, as much joy and pleasure out of our lives now, because we don't know. We don't know how long it'll last, and you don't want to stop living your life waiting for something, indefinitely.
And I completely agree with you. And I am quite an optimistic person, and I'm not living in panic or fear, but I'm not in a particularly bad situation in terms of work. I have my family, etc., etc. So for me, the new normal, as it isn't terribly bad. But for other people, it can be much worse. So if they're feeling very out of control, very stressed, very worried, very anxious, overwhelmed, what can they do to put themselves in more of a positive, optimistic mindset and find the joy in the current moment in time?
Okay, so a lot of our stress comes from uncertainty and feeling like we're out of control. So it's a matter of coming back to now and finding what you can actually have control over. And people who are incredibly stressed might need some expert help to clear the extra stress out of their bodies. And that's certainly what I've been helping people with. But it's being where come back to now. So turn the news off. I've got family and friends in Africa and India and Europe, and, I have to shut that out It's not about not caring, but it's about, yes, I'm aware of it. Okay, now come back to now. What do I have control over within my environment? Because I want to keep everyone safe, so I will stay at home as much as possible. What can I do in my environment, my four walls, my house, with my family, to make it a happy lifestyle, basically? Because all we want to be is happy. And, so decide what makes you happy. Like for me, happiness is being healthy, it's being loved, it's being fulfilled, secure, and free. And freedom comes in your mind. So you can be free in a jail mentally.
Yes.
Okay. So then that brings it down. So all I have to do in a day is work out what I can do to fulfill those needs so I'm happy.
Your approach is quite similar to mine in terms of what makes me happy. I'm not a particularly materialistic type of person. Although also like you, I do love traveling. So it's a little bit frustrating that you can't get out, but actually there's plenty to enjoy at home as well.
You can travel in your mind. I mean, we had plans to go back to Europe to Peter's family in Germany at Christmas, but, that's not going to happen. But, we can, I've got photos, you can travel in your mind. There's also, imagine going through this without the internet. I mean, how blessed are we? We've got the whole world at our fingertips anyway. And, people miss the physical contact. That's another thing. If you've got a teddy bear, cushions, pillows, give those hugs, like literally have hugs.
Or pets, although our dog...
It's over being hugged.
Well, she's had enough. She's like, you've been home 4 weeks now. When are they going back to school? And she's actually started giving, she's only 3, so she's not old, but she gives these kind of little growls that just say, will you just go away and leave me alone?
Well, you have introverts and extroverts people, but you also have introvert and extrovert cats or pets. And I didn't realise that until I was writing an article on, the pros and cons of being introvert, extrovert in this current, this new normal. And I suddenly realised, wow, I've got an introvert cat and an extrovert cat.
How funny is that?
Very different needs.
Although I miss having a social life, so to speak, although we get on house party and all that kind of stuff, it's actually quite good just being in your own mind, creating rather than worrying.
One energizes, one builds you up and moves you forward, the other just drags you back. There's no point worrying about something you can't control.
It's interesting as well, you say about the travel. About 3 years ago, we live in the countryside, so we don't have any public transport or one bus a day. And I broke my wrist, so I couldn't drive anywhere. And I travelled the world on the internet, even to the extent of which sites I saw, which restaurants I ate in, what I ate off the menu. I had a fantastic time. I travelled all over the world.
I hadn't thought about the menus. That's excellent.
But also as well, you can now, I think it's the opera in Paris, you can see for free. I haven't got round to seeing it, but I thought it was amazing. There are loads of things that you probably wouldn't be able to afford to do in real life that you get the opportunity to do virtually. I know it's not quite the same, but
actually, that's another point, because I'm hearing things like that and I'm thinking, I don't have time to go to the opera at the moment because I'm actually busy pivoting is what they call it, but changing, doing things. And I've noticed quite a few of my clients are incredibly busy because they're not only working from home, they're also homeschooling. So they're actually less free time than they had before. So it's being aware of the importance of self-care in those times too, but it's giving yourself permission. It's no good fighting against. You have to give yourself permission to make the best of the new normal, whatever that is for you. And also too, in terms of people having all this free time, it's so important that if you're out of work currently, you need to actually be working during work days. And whether that working is working on your CV, making connections, talking to people to see who's doing what, because you never know. And there's some industries that are actually taking off and might be not what you were doing before, but as an interim or maybe a new fresh start, there's certainly opportunities out there. And that's where I come down to that marking time. If you're just marking time, watching Netflix and whatever, waiting for it to be over, well, then you're not prepared for when it is over for a start, because you'll be so down in terms of energy and sluggish and low self-esteem, low self-confidence. So it's so important you at least work for 2 and 3 hours a day doing something, working on yourself, working on your potential, your possibilities, your future.
So being productive, because if you don't feel productive, you do feel a bit useless and sluggish.
Yeah. Thrown on the
Uh,
scrap heap.
and I've been doing lots of online learning as well, which is great from a personal interest point of view. But also, if you're not working at the moment, you can be upskilling and making your CV even stronger and better in the future. So
Absolutely.
definitely. And you mentioned homeschooling as well. If I'm honest with you, I was utterly, utterly dreading it. And this was when it was first announced that we were travelling to Hong Kong in June, July, or via Hong Kong to the UK. And there was a note from the education department that you'd have to be in self-isolation for 2 weeks. I rang my husband and I said, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Which of course now would feel like a dream. But we're actually trying to enjoy it.
Oh no.
And the breaks in the day, so they've got the fruit break and the morning tea and the lunch break and then the after school break. But it's actually quite a good way to break up your own day. So you're not just sat at your desk looking at your computer and not moving, because not moving, I think, can make you a bit depressed and sluggish. And if you just sat there for 8 hours.
And you tend to eat if you're not moving.
Absolutely.
Or dream. And it's a wonderful time to reconnect and really get to know your kids.
Yes.
Particularly before, you can bond with them before they move into those teenage years where they disappear.
I'm laughing because one of them is a teenager who's hidden in her dungeon, which I don't know, she hasn't literally, you don't go near her room. So what I was going to say, I think we were going to talk a little bit more about your travel and volunteer work, which obviously we can't travel now. In terms of volunteering, is there much that you're doing at the moment? Are there many options you could offer that people might want to explore?
Well, raising awareness, Gabrielle's school and orphanage in Kenya, in Nakuru in Kenya, and the organisation is nakuruhope.org. It's founded by a friend that I met trekking in Nepal back in '99. And they're in a slum, so dire straits at the best of times. The transformer for the power for the local community or that particular slum they're in died, and the powers that be aren't replacing it, aren't repairing it. So the school, who had fundraised and got a water bore happening to supply clean water to the community, all the families for the kids in the school. There's 300 kids in the school. There's no clean water now. So they're madly fundraising to get solar panels installed so then you can go back to pumping water and keep everyone, a chance of having them healthy. I mean, food's still a problem because, you think of the queues here, I imagine what they're like there, because the haves have certainly got money and the prices have gone through the roof, which we haven't had here. So, yeah, it's just really a scary situation. And I just think of all those beautiful children that I, lived with a couple of years in a row that are really at risk now, even more than before. In terms of here, there's a care army. If you've registered to be a volunteer, they're sending out information about ways you can help your neighbour while, still having that physical distancing. And I'd much rather call it physical distancing rather than social distancing. We don't need social distancing. You want to stay connected, but physically, yes, absolutely. We went for a walk early. We go early in the morning and there's no one around. But coming back, there was an old fellow down the road away checking his letterbox. I don't know why at 7 a.m, but he was. So I just asked him if, said hello and asked if he had anyone to check in on him and whether he needed anything. So, just little things like that can make a big difference. So it's just being aware of who's living around you, what their needs are, pick up the phone, stay connected that way. And you mentioned your daughter, she could be an introvert at the best of times. And then with the teen hormones, that explains. And so it's being aware of that too when you're homeschooling. Who are your introverts, who are your extrovert children? Because they have different needs.
That's really interesting, actually, because she is definitely an introvert. She's kind of a little bit in her own blissful world, though, because she gets to hide in a bedroom on a MacBook eating, talking to people when she wants to, but not talking when she doesn't need to. But it's funny you talk about looking after your elderly neighbours. I rang our next door neighbour who's nearly 80 a couple of weeks ago to see how she was getting on. She said, "I'm fantastic." I said, "Well, that's great." She said, "I've had a hip replacement. I haven't felt this good since I was 40. And it was before the physical distancing, social distancing thing. She said, "We must pop round. I must pop round and we can have a boogie." And I said, "Oh my goodness, you do sound great." But it was good that, putting those calls in and checking on your elderly neighbours.
And it's good psychologically for yourself, because it takes you out of your navel gazing, out of your own worries, and helps you, connect and care about others. And it's, that sense of connection that makes us feel good. And that's a way of bringing love in for ourselves as well. So, it's a win-win situation.
Well, it made me very happy when she said that she'd felt the best she had in nearly 40 years, which is fantastic. So you offer consultations and also something called the problem-solving process. Tell me a little bit more about that process and what you do in those consultations.
Okay, so the bulk of my work is one-on-one mindset coaching and healing. So I have different programs that run from 12 months back to a 6-session jumpstart. I also have a problem dissolving, which is just a one-off, short but really powerful, that gets down at that deep unconscious level. I mentioned before working with the crew at that unconscious level, just to literally dissolve the boundaries. Because, for something to be a problem in your life, you have to put a boundary around it so you know where the problem starts and where it ends. And, things in my life I could consider a problem, you could look at and go, "What's she on about? That's not a problem." So this goes down that deep level, and it literally shifts how you think and feel about things. It gives you space to come up with the creative solutions. So that's a really powerful, really short, powerful, and it also gives you a taste of what working with me is like. So that's the problem dissolving, and that's actually, I put that one on my website, which is suelester.com. You talk about a special deal. So for listeners of this podcast, if you purchase the problem dissolving, and then once we have the session, and let me know where you came from, where you heard about this, I will give you the MP3 recording of that powerful process, so you can listen to it and dissolve problems as much as you like throughout your day, throughout your weeks, to keep yourself on track. So that's all part of that deal.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Sue.
And there's also my Facebook group called Staying Sane in Crazy Times, and I'm doing lives, I'm putting resources, head trash clearing tips, mindfulness, all sorts of bits and pieces, some humour, because laughter is the best medicine at the best of times.
Yeah, I'm part of that group, and it's been some really insightful but also fun and enjoyable insights that you provide there. So thank you very much.
That's great feedback. Thank you.
My pleasure, and thank you for sharing. So what I will do in terms of sharing, I'll share the details about the head trash clearing resources, the Facebook group. You've written so many blogs. You could write well, you have written a book.
One and a half, actually.
Yes. Oh, wow. So you nearly, what's the next one called?
Answering the Call to Adventure, which is a collection of travel tales, because I've travelled all over the world, adventure travel over the world, just seen from the wisdom and fog of hindsight. So when I get some spare time, I'll finish that.
Yes, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, of course. But what I'll do is I'll share all those resources on the show notes so people can access them. And it's been really good to speak to you. I'm in a relatively positive mindset anyway, but just having this conversation with you has been great and cleared that head trash as well.
Excellent.
And is there anything else you'd like to add at all, Sue?
Oh, so much, but we've only got a short amount of time. Just remember that the chrysalis analogy, and make sure that you're doing whatever you're doing, your inner work, working on yourself now, so you can enjoy the now, but also enjoy the future.
Thank you very much, Sue. It's been an absolute delight to speak to you, and thank you.
Cheers, Nicola. Bye for now.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're looking for career advice, your next career opportunity, or to grow your tech team, then please call me, Nicola Steele, on 0499 773 546, or go to our website, jjptalent.com.au. The Don't Just Survive, Thrive podcast is part of the Spotlight series, which includes the YouTube channel Spotlight on Software Development. If you want more insights into the software industry, particularly tech startups, then subscribe to the Spotlight on Software Development YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Until next time.